Hello everybody, welcome back to Naked Security Live. I'm Paul Ducklin from Sophos, and today's topic, as you can see, is basically a little bit of fun but with a very serious side. The title is Phishing Top 10, How Well Would You Do? And the reason that I want to talk about this particular topic today, and let me know if you can hear me by the way, I do have my green light on, so I hope this is all working. The reason I want to talk about this today is we have just published on nakedsecurity.sophos.com some statistics that came from our own Sophos Phish Threat team, and they create the product and the service that we sell that allows you to do phishing simulations. Essentially, what you're doing is you're testing out your own users in a way that if they make a blunder, it's you on the other end, not the crooks. So it's a way of testing out users. Now I know that sounds, some people don't like that idea. They say, oh, you're trying to trip us up, you're trying to catch people out, it's kind of rude, it's aggressive, it's offensive, we don't like it. The thing is, the crooks are testing you out all the time, and so you might as well test yourself and stay one step ahead. Andy, hello from Pennsylvania, can hear you well. Teresa, loud and clear from the breezy Ottawa Valley. It's a breezy Oxfordshire plain at the moment. And a third comment, I missed you, I'm sorry, you've just scrolled off the screen. Welcome everybody, thanks for joining. So as I said, I'm going to be talking about the top 10 phish threat simulations that our phish threat team have noticed from the statistics so far this year. So these are users of our product who have done simulations that we provide. You can knit your own simulations if you want, but we provide a huge corpus of very likely looking phishes. In other words, we regularly update it based on what the crooks are up to. So we try and keep them realistic and also representative of what your users would see in real life. So there are hundreds of them in the database and they can be tailored as you want, but they picked out the 10 that have worked the best when disseminated in a corporate and a workplace environment. So we're not talking about home users, we're talking about people in business with business-oriented phishes. Now, whether you're working in the office or you're working from home doesn't matter. The idea is that these are the 10 themes that seem to have the best click-through rate. It doesn't mean people would necessarily put in their passwords, but it does indicate the kind of phishing content that would work the best for the crooks at the moment. So we'll go through those, just checking. Marvin, just a smiley, don't know where you're from, Marvin. Kalingathion, I'm guessing from Spain, perhaps. Argentina, we get had quite a few listeners from Argentina. I guess not from Brazil. Oh, phish threat campaigns in Sophos Central, very good too, double exclamation point. Well, thank you very much. So you will have tried some of these. We're going to tell you which ones work the best. So let me go through them. I've got some pictures for some of them. I won't bore you with an example of the email in every case. There are 10 to go through, and then on the back you see I managed to get a new range of index cards. These are nice old school. I'm not using them for indexing, just using them for my notes. So we've got 10 phishes to look at, and then I've got 4 tips to finish off with. Nazir Kabani, very good idea. We'll share the article. Thank you so much. So here we go. The phish simulation that did the best, got the best click-through rate of all the ones that people chose. Now obviously there are some that they might not have chosen because they didn't think they would work, but if they had, they would have come at the top. We don't know, but given that the sample size is reasonably large and these are all the campaigns, some people have done hit tens of thousands of users up with these campaigns. We think this is pretty representative. So the first one was what we call rules of conduct. Basically, this was an email allegedly from HR saying, hey, we've changed the rules of engagement or the conditions of employment. You'll know that quite a lot of companies are doing this these days. You know, they want to embrace diversity, they want to try and reduce harassment in the workplace, make it absolutely clear how people are supposed to behave. And if you work in a company that has an HR department, big enough to have an HR department, you know that these documents, all you have to do is read them, you have to say you've read them, and as long as you don't, HR are kind of legally bound to hound you till you do, so you might as well click through. And here's what it looked like. Very, very simple, you know, just the kind of thing, I hope you can see that. Basically, review this document, and that's all you have to do, thank you so much. and you'll see there's a SharePoint link in there. I've blanked out the actual link. So it looks completely like something you might get. It's on a sharepoint.com, so it's a legitimate domain. What is bogus, of course, is the place that you go to. It's not a document that you can actually review. Of course, they're going to ask you for your password, etc, etc, etc. So you can see why people would click through that. They know that they're kind of duty bound to do so. It's not going to take a lot of time. They're going to have to do it sooner or later. They might as well get it over and done with now. So that worked very, very well. And unfortunately, what it meant is that people weren't checking the link and going, you know what, if HR wanted me to do this, they probably wouldn't send me here, or they probably wouldn't send me there. There's usually a giveaway, not always, but there's usually a giveaway in the link that it doesn't quite look like what the company would usually do. That's a warning sign. The second most popular one, and this is probably because the majority of uses of the product at the moment are in North America, and in the United States their tax year ends at the end of December, but I reckon this would work in any country. Basically, it just says the tax documentation that we're obliged to give you this year will be delayed. We're really sorry. Click here to find out more. So whether it's a W-2 or whether your country calls a W-2 like in the US, or a P60 or an IRP5 or a payment statement, whatever it is, you know that these are documents that you're going to need, that your employer is obliged to provide you, that the tax office expects both of you to agree upon. So if there is a delay, it doesn't really matter. You don't have to do anything, but it's the kind of thing that I'd want to go and look just so I knew when I'd get the paperwork, so when I could get my tax return in. Elliot Billam, fake SharePoint recycle bin reminder must be in there. It isn't actually, but I can imagine why that would work, but so we've had two. We've got rules of conduct, and with HR, something you have to read because it's part of your conditions of employment. Read it and then you're done, and we won't bother you again. You've probably done that already for work. Delayed tax documents, who wouldn't want to know when they were actually coming out? The third one now, I was kind of surprised at this, scheduled IT maintenance, server maintenance. Now, I get those all the time from work, legitimate ones. Our IT department tries to be proactive and say, look, this is when this server's going to be off the air, that service isn't going to be working, you won't be able to publish articles on naked security. For this little 10-minute window, I might as well look. Now, I would have thought that most people go, oh, golly, IT, I don't really care, like either it's available or not. If it isn't, it doesn't really matter. But I suspect that in these coronavirus times where people are working from home, the advantage of IT telling you and you reading it is that if you know that there's going to be an outage in a server that you require, and it's going to be a half-hour window, and it's going to be on Wednesday afternoon, hey, if you need to go to the post office or the shops or the pharmacy or whatever it is, what a great time to schedule it. So it's a fantastic way. I can see these days why people want to read those, because it would be fantastic for helping them schedule their own lives. And it turns out that people are willing to read bulletins from IT, which is good news for IT. There's also good news for the crooks because it gives them something to hang their hat on. The fourth one, not surprisingly at all, was basically task assigned to you. Now, if you use a project management system or a content management system, I'm thinking of products like Jira, Asana, that sort of thing, where there's a ticketing system and somebody looks through them and they go, this article, that needs writing. Paul Ducklin will do that. Click. And I get a little a link that I have to go to, and I agree to do the task, and I say how long. And the idea is that it manages workflow really efficiently. Lots of companies are using systems like that. Small, medium, and large companies, whether you run the servers yourself or you operate it in the cloud. And now in this case, this is where the user of the Phish Threat product, they get to choose which ticketing system. So in other words, if your company doesn't use Jira, then there's no point in sending out Phish Threat emails saying, hey, here's a Jira ticket, because people won't even know what it is and they'll ignore it. So it sounds like that's a targeted attack, and in some senses it is, but the thing is that you should assume that the software tools, the business tools that your company uses, the email service you use, whether it's Gmail or Outlook 365, the ticketing system, the source code control system, all of that sort of stuff, you should assume that that's kind of public knowledge, because generally when you're communicating with people outside, you'll give away what those systems are. They don't need to be secret, and you can't rely on them being secret. So, and the crooks can probably find out for what a lot of software use automatically anyway. So the fact that you get a ticketing system and it exactly matches the one in your company, that's not a sign, oh well, it can't be the crooks, because they'd never have guessed. A, they could guess because there aren't that many ticketing systems in the world, and B, they probably know anyway. So the point is there, by very, very basic tailoring of the email to match the tools that your company used, the phish threat simulation was able to get a huge click-through rate. Fifth, you can see this, hey, new email test. Click here to in fact, I'm amazed that in the past when I've seen IT doing things like new email system test, testing delivery email, no need to reply, the number of people who do reply, yes I got it, everyone loves to be helpful, right? They think, well, I don't want to lose access to my email. If we are switching systems, if it's one click, if it takes me 30 seconds and I help the rest of the company, who doesn't want to help? So you can see why that's a good hook for the crooks to hang their coat on as well. The sixth one, I have to say I love this one, and it works stupendously well. It was a note from building management, as happy as you like. Let me show you what it looks like. Here it is. Someone left their headlights on in the parking lot. Hey, we don't want you to go home tonight. We don't want to go home tonight and find that you've got a flat battery. Now, this might not work so well today because comparatively fewer people are actually at the office. But you know, if I had a car and if I thought I might have left my lights on, I could imagine that I'd click that link. You sort of would, wouldn't you? You think, well, it's probably not me, but I might as well check. Now, I'll admit that at first, when I saw that message, I thought, you know what? That it never works like that. They never put up a picture of the car. They just write the registration number or the tag number. Say, you know, vehicle OX143YP. That's a sort of postcode, not a car registration, by the way. But they just put the tag number up, and that uniquely identifies the car. Then it occurred to me that actually in North America, in many states of the US and provinces in Canada, a lot of them have actually done away with front plates entirely. So depending on which way around the car was parked, the picture might not actually show identify the car, might not actually show the registration plate or the tag. So actually putting up a picture isn't unbelievable, and unsurprisingly people click because they figure, I might as well check. It's probably not me. What harm in having a look? The seventh one, unsurprisingly, even at work, this works really well. The good old courier delivery failure. Particularly works well for the crooks these days. Lots of us are required or need to work from home. It's difficult, or for some people impossible, to go to the shops, so we're relying heavily on home deliveries. And of course, generally speaking, you should know who the courier is if you've ordered something, but not always, because the vendor gets to choose, right? You order something online, if it's a company you haven't used before, then they choose the courier, and then you get a message from that courier company. You don't necessarily know who it is in advance, so I can understand why people fall for those. It just kind of seems like the thing that you ought to check. That's 8 done. The 9th one, this is a trick that the crooks have been using for ages, and it works really well because it looks like a regular email, but there's a very, very good excuse, a very good reason why you have to do things that are a little bit unusual. So this is it's just a document that HR want you to do a quick review of. They don't say what it is, but it's sort of log in with your corporate email and check this secure document. In other words, we're not just sending it to you unencrypted. So it sounds like they're actually doing you a big security favor. But in fact, the trick is, you see there, it looks like an attachment. It has a little word icon. That's actually just an image, and if you click it, you go to the page that asks for your email. And of course, it's all a pack of lies. There is no document. It isn't encrypted. You don't need to put in your email. The link won't be quite right. It wouldn't be where you would go to view work documents. But it's kind of believable because it's almost mundane. There's no threat. There's no excitement. There's no worry. There's just, hey, here's a document. We'd like you to have a look at it. But wow, we're security conscious. You'll need to put in your password. It's surprisingly believable, isn't it? And the last, number 10 on the list, and we're not surprised that worked well at sadly at the moment, because lots of people have their working hours cut or even lost their jobs. So LinkedIn, the popularity of LinkedIn has surged quite a lot lately. We're noticing that we get a lot more traffic on LinkedIn relative to, say, Facebook and Twitter than we used to, because people are hanging out there with completely understandable reasons. And this email simply said, hey, you've got a social media message from LinkedIn, click here to see whatever it is from Joseph. And you can imagine that what they call fear of missing out. You can understand why people might click through there, even though social media clicking doesn't really have anything directly to do with most people's jobs. It seems like a harmless and legitimate enough thing to do. Stephen Brownlow, any doubt, don't click, and someone's put a like. Yes. In fact, I'd go. People say, well, if in doubt, go and check. The rule number 0, I'll get to the tips in a moment. My rule number 0 is actually forget all the details about how you might check and what you'd look for in the link. If you feel, this is my opinion, that if you feel like you should seek help and ask someone, so if you're going to ask them, I've got this email, I wonder if it's a fraud, back yourself. Because if you've got the doubt, it probably means you've already effectively answered your own question and you needn't click. And if it's that important and you miss out, then the person who genuinely wanted to contact you will probably find another way to get hold of you, accepting perhaps that there might be a reason why you didn't click in the first place. Karen O'Halloran, anything written on the back of your shirt? Yes, there is. Just the name of the company. So I hope you could have predicted that, and a little emoticon. The new shirts, if you go to shop.sophos.com to buy them, they're actually done the other way around. It seems that in North America people prefer that. They have the company name on the front, and then when you're walking away or when you're standing in a queue or whatever, then they want to see the cool slogan on the back. I've got mine. These are the sort of UK brand ones. I like the ones with the slogan on the front because they're a cool talking point. So let's run very, very quickly and run through those. So the first one was this rules of conduct. It's a document you have to read. HR are going to hound you until you do. There's no real pressure, but you might as well get the job done. It's not going to take you hours. It's not going to interfere with your life. You might as well click through and finish it. The second one, your tax documentation for this year is going to be delayed. Click here to find out. We're really sorry about it. Click here to find out when you'll get it. Scheduled IT maintenance. It seems that people are willing to try and help IT by looking for when things are going to be offline and fit that in with the scheduling of their own life. Emails that pretend to be from the company's own workflow system. In this case, it was Jira, if you happen to use that. But the person who runs Fish Threat gets to choose which task scheduling system is going to be used. One that says, it's a new email system test. Just click here to make sure you're receiving it so you don't miss out on anything. Seems like you're helping IT. Why wouldn't you click? Car lights on. Regretfully, I've got to say that's a bit smart because it's so nice and cheery. Click here. It's probably not you, but it might be, and you don't want your battery to go flat. Work to treat. Courier delivery failure. We know that works because nobody wants to miss a home delivery, so watch out for those folks. This secure document, old school trick for the crooks. Either they use it as an excuse to get you to put in a password where you wouldn't normally expect, or if it's a document they're asking you to open and it comes up with security warnings like, this document has macros, those can be dangerous, they even provide a little pointer saying, turn that off, reduce security. They're claiming that they're doing the whole process to improve security. But of course, the trick is putting in your password, changing your security settings. The crooks are getting you to do that. You know you're not really supposed to do that. And the crooks aren't increasing your security. They're doing it fraudulently to try and get you to reduce security so they can wander in. And the last one, social media. Here's a message. You missed it. Just click to see what it is. So the 4 tips. Well, we've already had one from one of our listeners yet. Any doubt, don't click. That's really easy. Just 4 words. Any doubt, don't click. Take that as your rule number 1. Bat yourself. If you think it's fraudulent, it probably is. You can ask someone else if you like, but if your gut feeling is this is all wrong, then it probably is wrong. So that my first tip, I've just got it down as think before you click. So just make sure that you don't click and think, if it's a fish, I'll probably find out later, because eventually there'll be a document that where I have to change some settings, or there'll be a password I have to put in. If you think it's a fraudulent link, don't click through to see if it might be, because after all, if you're clicking through to where the crooks are, well, why would you do that if you didn't need to? The second point is, particularly for business emails, or emails that might or might not come from the business, but they kind of look believable enough, it shouldn't be too hard to check with the sender. So if you feel you need to, if you feel that this might be legitimate, check with the sender, but very importantly, don't check by replying to the email. Because if it was a legitimate email, the sender will say, yes, it's legitimate. And if it's a fraudulent email, then the crook will say, yes, it's legitimate. So if you've got a corporate directory that you can access through your own means, you should have some other means of contacting your colleagues. Make sure you know how to do that. So if you need to check the veracity of an email, then you don't have to use email. If you need to phone them up to check something, you don't have to rely on a phone number that's put in the email, because if a crook sent the email, they'll put their own phone number in there. And if it's a mobile number, how would you know? So check if you need to, but make sure that you don't fall into the trap of checking using information that could have been provided by a fraudster. The third thing is, do check all the links before you click them. It's quite common for crooks to get links that look just about okay. They can sometimes register domain names and they'll have your company name with an O replaced with a 0, or an I replaced with a 1, or an L replaced with an I, something like that. Or they'll put your company name dash site, or your company name dash documents. So it kind of looks legitimate enough. So if you have any doubt, if it doesn't look like where you normally go, then back yourself and don't go there. And lastly, do report to your IT team, to your security team, suspicious emails, because the crooks never just send one, do they? They don't just send an email to you, and if you don't fall for it, then they send one to the next guy and the next guy and the next guy. They could, if you work in a company with 1,000 people and their email list is big enough, and they send out a phishing campaign, it could hit 100, 200, 500, half of your staff could receive the same email, and the first person who reports it actually gets in there ahead of the crooks, so the IT department gets to warn everybody else. Because remember, if 500 copies of that email enter your company, then you need nobody to click it. The crooks only need one person to make a mistake. And by the way, if you are in the IT department, you don't have an easy way for your staff to report stuff, get one. It could be an email address, simple as something like security911@yourcompany.com, whatever it is. Because with a little bit of encouragement, you can turn all your staff into the eyes and ears of your security team. NCSA tagline, stop, think, connect. That's Andy. Yes, Andy, I love that tagline. They've been using it for years. And the fact that it's think, full stop, period in US speak. Think, stop, dot, think, dot, connect, dot. In other words, a little bit of delay goes an awful long way. Don't be in such a hurry to get through your stuff that you don't think before you click, that you don't check with the sender if you need to, that you don't verify the links to see if, because we've said this many times before, the only thing worse than getting scammed is getting scammed and then going back and looking, what did I do? The signs were all there, I just didn't notice them. So don't get caught out that way. Indeed, folks, stop, think, connect. So thanks for listening, and until next week, stay secure and don't get phished. Not even by your own IT team.